Tara, thank you so much for joining us. Tara is in Johannesburg. Now, Tara, I know the answer to this, but some might still say comic books, but is it art?
Well, here's an art curator telling you it is art. And last year we had a very successful exhibition, The Art of Comics, at the Johannesburg Art Gallery that was very well received. And we saw lots of new audiences coming to the museum. And I think a lot of people realizing that the relationship between art and comics is not as distant as you might think. So this year we are really excited to have an opportunity to build on that original exhibition, The Art of Comics, and expand it into the rest of the continent and to show some of the talent there.
Now, obviously, this is a project that just didn't happen overnight. You obviously had to wade your way through various artists. We're always told that the talent in terms of animation and comic artists in South Africa is a very, very deep and rich well that we see just growing all the time. What impressed you the most about the art that came across the desk of you and your fellow curators?
Well, I think, just the diversity. I mean, it's a pity that we can only showcase 16 artists on the virtual exhibition. I mean, on the, museum show, we had 20 from South Africa, and that was even cutting it down, So I think really just kind of like the diversity of what people are doing, spanning into animation, graphic novels, web comics. I mean, there's really so much out there in terms of the themes that people are exploring and the styles as well. And I really hope that the exhibition reflects that.
The exhibition has been split up into 3 chapters: Autobiography, Heroes and History, Folklore and the Future. And you're dealing with really talented storytellers. And indeed, they can come up with fiction, but I suppose in the times that we're living in, they can also make very real statements about what people are currently living through in a very artistic way.
100%. And I mean, what you touched on there, the storytelling aspect, I mean, this was really kind of the premise for us choosing these 3 chapters for the exhibition. In the original exhibition, we had far more, but I really feel like these ones reflect the key concept of this exhibition, which is also Africans telling African stories. And I think that comics are such an exciting medium for this to happen. Whether it be, as you say, reflecting real world events that are going on, not just kind of fictional things, to actually recording our own folk stories, myths, legends, that have been passed down for generations, and to actually preserve those in the form of a comic. And then also looking forward, I mean, we've got fantastic artists such as Juniba, who are really at the kind of the cutting edge of creating, a style that is uniquely African, and telling stories which are African stories, which are futuristic, which are exciting. So I think that there's such a wealth that visitors will discover on the website.
Well, just scrolling through this website, Afropolitancomics.com, what struck me really is the variety of the different styles, and that really is the beauty of animation and cartoon making or comic making, isn't it? You can have those very dramatic and very dark images that is the style of certain artists, but then you can also have people who feel the best way to bring their stories across is through happier and colorful and more rounded images, as it were. There really is a space for everybody in this world, isn't there?
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that it reflects art as well as comic books. I mean, we all know and accept that there's a massive scope for what people consider art, from painting to sculpture. But I mean, I think we can think about comics just as easily in the same terms and celebrate that.
It's also a great entry level, especially for young people. I mean, you often hear stories of youngsters saying, but I want to make my life in this world as an animator or as a comic artist, and parents say, oh, but that isn't a real art. Are you finding that stigma is changing?
Yeah, and I think it's also, it's our job to change it by actually supporting, these creators and these stories. I mean, this is what we want to see, coming from the continent. And I think that, the more that we support these industries, the more viable they become. And there's actually a really exciting discussion happening at 12 p.m. today through the National Arts Festival with some of the comics producers and also people around the continent, from Nigeria, Ghana, and Cameroon, who are organizing comics festivals, organizing, animation, gaming, and, online publishing in comics. And I think that, if there are young people watching and anyone who might be interested to see what people are actually doing on the continent, I think definitely tune in at 12 o'clock.
Well, that's a great tip right there. Thank you so much. Tara Weber is one of the curators for the Afropolitan Comics exhibition presented by the French Institute and as part of the virtual National Arts Festival. To find out more and to actually check out the exhibition, all you need to do is go to afropolitancomics.com. And as you just heard there, Tara giving us a tip for a great talk that's happening at 12 o'clock. If you're interested in that kind of thing, you can just go to the National Arts Festival website to find out more about that talk.